Why can't we all get along, eh? It's such a shame. You know what? One of the things I think is one of the problems is like inconsistencies in life. Are certainly one of the things that like pisses me off, irritates me. There doesn't seem to be any uniform or consistent logic to life in general. You know, the rules always seem to be like different, and there's no rules that generally kind of govern the same aspects of life, but they're always different. There's no logic. Like, I mean, just to take an example, the service industry, right, is a good example. Like, if you're a bartender, right, people come in the bar and ask for a drink, you give them a drink, they pay you, they leave a tip if they like your service or whatever. But if they give you any jib, if they give you any shit, you can go around the other side of the bar, smack them in the mouth, and throw them out. You know, that's okay. Or if they've had too much to drink and start like wobbling around, or trying to chat up someone, or just generally misbehaving, then you can say, "Sorry, mate, you've had too much to drink. You can't have any more. You're done." You can shut them down. Now, if you're a waiter or waitress in a restaurant, it's basically the same job. I mean, you're serving people food, okay, but drinks as well. I mean, they order stuff, you give it to them, they pay you, they leave a tip. But you try, like, if a woman orders some key lime pie, and you think she's a bit on the heavy side, you try telling her, sorry, miss, I think you've had enough to eat, don't you? You see how that goes down. You know, you have to put up with every last bit of shit that they throw at you. You can't punch them in the mouth and throw them out. I mean, you'd be fired on the spot. And like I say, you're still basically totally dependent upon the tip at the end of the day. So the amount of money you make working in a restaurant is completely determined by how good you are at just taking shit from arseholes and sucking up to people. What a nightmare. I mean, it's not their fault. I feel huge sympathy. I have great respect for people who work in restaurants who can keep their shit together. But it's basically the same job as a bartender. I mean, it's just totally different set of rules, and there's no logic for it. No logic. I mean, restaurants serve alcohol. You can't blame. That's not the missing ingredient. And then if you want to go to the far end of the spectrum, think about the job of a flight attendant. I mean, they're basically like waiters, waiters and waitresses. Flight attendants are, but they're working in a flying restaurant, just a restaurant in the sky, just like in a waiter in a restaurant. They just have to suck it up and take any kind of shit that you want to throw at them. There's nothing they can do. They got to grin and bear it. They're not allowed to react. They can't answer you back. They can't do anything, or they'd be fired. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And what makes it even worse, of course, is that that all of you, all of your customers, as a flight attendant, you know for a fact that they're all really uncomfortable, they're nearly all irritated, don't want to be there, and they know that the food sucks even before they sit down. So I mean, it's absolute nightmare. So it's like working in a restaurant, but like again, 10 times worse. And yet you still have to suck it up, and you got no recourse. Nightmare. Again, I have an enormous amount of respect for flight attendants, but I couldn't do that job in a million years. And then even worse, as a flight attendant, if you're working in a restaurant, when you go over, people sit down at the table, you go over and say, "Hey, my name's Jackie, I'll be your waiter," blah blah blah. That's your introduction. If you're a flight attendant, your introduction is you have to stand up at the front of the aircraft, in front of everybody, in front of the whole restaurant, and make this ridiculous speech, the most asinine, ludicrous, nonsensical bit of gibberish that anybody ever wrote. And you have to stand up there and basically spend 5 minutes like reciting this utter nonsense. Now, luckily, generally speaking, people don't pay any attention or listening to it, but nonetheless, if you have any self-respect or self-awareness, you've got to be, while you're standing there, you've got to be thinking, what is this nonsense? I mean, it could have been written by Monty Python. The safety thing. I mean, think about it. It basically, there's 4 elements to it. I mean, it's standard. I don't even know why they have to do it. It was probably. I mean, I know it's FAA regulations, but it's like they're not even taking it seriously. It's utterly ridiculous. Bottom line is, fucking plane goes down, you're all dead. You know, it's not rocket science. So it's almost like the people that were required by the FAA to write these, to give the safety talk. It's like they go, "Oh, are you serious? Are you serious? All right, well, if you're going to insist, then fuck you. Check this out." So there's 4 parts to it. Firstly, the first thing they show you is how to put the flat bit into the fucking non-flat bit in the seatbelt. Are you fucking joking? I think that they literally demonstrate that for you. I mean, it's it's unbelievable. They have to give a demonstration of how to fasten this, and thank God they also show you how to lift the clasp so you can undo it, or you'd never get out of there, right? That's the first part. Second part is where they explain that if the cabin depressurizes, the oxygen mask will drop down, right? Well, first off, if the cabin depressurizes, you've either already crashed or the plane's got a bloody great hole in it and you're about to crash. So why they have to stand up there and pretend like this is all, very well thought out, contingency plans for whatever. The whole point of all of this stuff is like, if the plane crashes, what do you do? What are you supposed to do if the plane crashes? Well, you're supposed to die. If the plane crashes, that's basically it. You just expire. That's really all that's required of you. But no, so they say, okay, so the cabin depressurizes, so the oxygen mask will drop down, will deploy and drop down in front of you, and then they say, put your own mask on before you put it on the children, which again makes no freaking sense whatsoever. I mean, if you've got children, if you don't know your parent, you're gonna. Well, like I said, for a start, you're gonna be dead. So I have no idea why why the insurance regulations say, oh well, no, they'll have much better chance of surviving if you do yourself first and not the kiddie. It's like I suppose the assumption is that if you try and put the mask on the kiddie first, by the time you finish it, you might have passed out. It's like just total gibberish. So then they say that the silliest part of all is they say, now the oxygen bag might inflate. It might inflate. This is a piece of kit. This is a device that you're explaining to us that is supposedly, presumably, going to save our lives. You would think maybe the design specifications would be a little bit more specific. Is it supposed to inflate or not? If it's providing us with life-saving oxygen, is the fucking thing supposed to inflate or is it not? If it's supposed to inflate, then I want it to inflate. I don't want to know that it might inflate. What if it doesn't inflate? I mean, presumably the reason they're saying it might inflate is that sometimes it doesn't. Well, in that case, it ain't working. It's the most ludicrous thing you've ever heard of. So, anyway, so then they go on, what's the next thing they say? They say, oh, well, yeah, in the event of a crash landing, if you need, or rather in the event of an emergency exit, you follow the coloured lights in the floor and be aware of the fact that your nearest exit might be behind you. Well, the coloured lights in the floor, they're just a line. They don't have arrows. They go left and right. So how the fuck are you supposed to know which way to turn? It's like they're trying to design a situation where you're all running into each other. Literally, they're just a row of dotted lights. Which way are you supposed to turn? And then finally, of course, they say, and in the